yes, I can do it myself, but you're asking me on a date. I expect to be taken care of.
Okay. Hey, this is Mr. Marketing. We're going to be jumping into our first video that's all about value proposition. What do you have that other people want? We have our Instagram model here. I am Gabby Faye, and she has some unique expectations about dating. Here we go.
If he wanted to, he would. Hear me out. I went on a date with a guy last week, and it was a good date. We had a fun time together. He's a big time lawyer. He owns 3 to 4 cars. He's doing really well in life. You guys know I'm a model. I'm new to the city. Transplant. Don't even have a car yet.
Okay, so we already have a mismatch in value, right? So he's going through his career. He's doing well as a lawyer. He's got a few cars, all that jazz. She's trying to break into the modeling industry, which is incredibly hard to get into. Doesn't even have her own car, for Christ's sake. And she's just starting out a brand new city. She's already not on a level playing field.
Like, still building up my life out here. Regardless, I expect my date to either pick me up or Uber me to the date.
Okay, so don't get me wrong. Everybody should have standards and should have expectations for a date. You should expect that somebody's going to treat you with respect. You should expect that someone's going to respect your consent. There are things, expectations, and standards do hold weight in. However, what Gabby is desperately missing out on is that a date is an interview. It is all about, and I advertise myself to this person, and are we a good match together? They are not in a relationship right now. This is not the time to be throwing in, I expect this, I expect that, give me this, give me that. Already, she's more than happy to get into what she needs to get from this interaction, not putting out anything for what she's going to give in this interaction.
The first date, he was a perfect gentleman. He picked me up and everything. He calls me today for a second date. He wants to go golfing. I said, great. What time are you picking me up? He's like, well, it's out of the way to pick you up. I just recommend you Uber to me and then we can go on our date.
Okay, I don't know anything about the man in question, but I can almost guarantee you as a vibe check. Hey, I'm already getting the sense that you want me to provide for you. What happens if I expect you to do something for yourself?
I wasn't sure if he meant me Uber myself or him Uber me. So I hung up and I texted him. I was like, hey, I'm excited for Saturday, but just to clarify. He calls me up and he's like, can you clarify your text message? And I said, I was wondering what you meant by the Uber. Were you going to call me an Uber or did you want me to call an Uber for myself? And he said, I recommend you call an Uber for yourself.
Okay, Gabby, let's try some honesty here. You knew exactly what his expectations were. This was not a clarification. This was just you hoping that if you confronted this man, that he would acquiesce and he would go ahead and provide you transportation to the second date.
And I said, oh, well, since this is a date, I prefer you to Uber me or you can pick me up. And he's like, oh, well, I think you could just do it yourself. And my thing is, yes, I can do it myself, but you're asking me on a date.
Okay, so here's what I'm seeing here. So let's take her at her word that she can provide transportation for herself. She just doesn't want to. This is 2022, not the 1950s. She's perfectly capable of getting her own job, supporting herself, being able to get herself from point A to point B, but she chooses not to. This is entirely a self-affirmation thing. I need someone to treat me like this so I can feel like I'm worth this. Don't get me wrong, affirmation is not a bad thing. We all need to be affirmed in the proper places in the proper ways, but this is not the proper place. This is not the proper way. I would also suggest she gets into therapy so that she can address how she gets her affirmations and how she can continue to get those affirmations in a healthy way. Because none of this is healthy. Also, this is sending all the wrong types of messages. This is telling me as a prospective dater is that, hey, she has these insecurity issues she's making up with me. So if I want to keep her, I have to give her all these things just so she can break even about herself. None of this is exactly something I'm clamoring for.
Pick me up or call me an Uber. The notion that it's too far or too out of the way for the date, it's an inconvenience for me because now I have to pay for part of this date. I have a problem with that.
Okay, so remember we're talking about value proposition? So she laid it out, right, that there's a mismatch in what she can provide versus what the man can provide in this case. There's also saying that it's all expectations. It's all expectations. You need to do this for me. You need to buy this for me. You need to do that for me. Assuming this man is successful like she says he is, and assuming this man has options that a successful man would have, she's not thinking about this from a marketing perspective. She's not thinking, hey, this man has options. What do I provide to this man that these other women will not? At this point, it's just fill the hole that's inside me, make me feel good about myself. That's not how you get any type of man worth having.
And when I think about it, you guys, like some women, my sister, for example, she won't even pay for an ice cream at the end of the date. And she's been dating her guy for a couple years now, but even the first few months of their dating, she refused to pay for anything. She didn't pay for anything. He was like, can't you just pay for an ice cream after dinner? And she's like, no. And guess what? She moves in with this man. They've been together for 3 years, about to get married. He picked that girl. He didn't pick the girl that was like trying to be nice and pay for her own Uber and pay for her own meal. No, he picked the girl that refused to pay for shit, refused to pay for anything for his ass, and he is in love. He's about to put a ring on it. He pays all the bills. They live together. He pays for everything. And yet, when they first started dating, he tried to play her. He was like, oh, can you just pay for this? No, I'm not paying for anything. Take it or leave it. He took it.
Okay, Gabby, we need to delve into the hard truths right now. What's the difference between you and your sister? Your sister has a man, you do not. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Gabby would have nothing but excuses if I were to ask her this personally. Oh, it's not like that, or my sister has a man because she was more firm and being treated right. You know, however else you want to phrase this. Here's the problem with all that. It doesn't work that way. You can't just demand something from somebody and then they're just cool with that. Not unless they get something in return. So the question really is, what does her sister provide that she's not providing? Yes, if he wanted to, he would have. But apparently, he did not want to. And this is why value proposition is so important. Because you can have expectations, you can want this, you can want that, but if you're in a relationship with another human being, that other human being has wants and needs as well. And I'm sorry, Gabby, but you being you, or just being a model that's trying to break into the modeling business, is not nearly enough. Your sister is living proof of that very concept. So my advice to Gabby would be pretty simple. The first bit of advice is that go see a therapist. And here's the simple fact of it all. If you don't have yourself right, your actions aren't going to be right. So if you have these deep-seated insecurity issues, you're going to keep trying to fill them in the wrong way, such as just being overly demanding to another person, not providing value to them, living a very self-centric, me-centered mindset. This is huge. If you don't take care of your own issues and your actions are constantly wrong, it doesn't matter who you're dating. It doesn't matter how many dates you go on. It does not matter because the component of you stays the same and the component that is you isn't messing it up. Point number 2 is also vital. It's looking at this from a marketing perspective, not an emotional perspective. Because the emotional perspective is, I don't feel valued, so I need someone to value me the way I want to be valued. The problem is that this man, if he's successful like she says he is, has options. She is not the only woman on this planet that he has an option to date and possibly marry. And what's killing her right now in the face of her competition is that she brings very little value to the table. I mean, let's be brutally honest right now. Without the Photoshop and the makeup, she is not great in the looks department. She does not have an established career. She doesn't even have her own reliable form of transportation. But what she is expecting is the whole table. She expects a man that's successful, that treats her right, that has cars, that has money. The reason why a high-value man will not go for a woman like that is that, quite honestly, high-value men are not idiots. They understand when they're getting screwed over in a deal. And quite honestly, the poor man that's trying to date this woman is getting screwed all the way over. And for all the viewers out there, I would pose the same thing. 1, get yourself right. If you need to go to therapy, if you need to talk to a religious leader, if you need to talk to some friends, do what you gotta do, but if you don't fix yourself, you will continue to maintain and perpetuate the wrong actions. And 2, understand that in a relationship like this, there's 2 people involved. There is you and your needs, and those are important. But there's also someone else and their needs, and that is important. Thank you so much for dropping by. I'll see you next time.